Is your camera not working? Well, no worries. I have some tricks and tips that I want to give you that will help you troubleshoot your setup. So here are some of the most common reasons we see the cameras are not working. Number one would be power. Let's make sure your camera is getting 12-volt power. Our cameras have two cables, HDMI cable and a power cable that has an analog video port as well into it. Make sure you're running both cables if you are using HDMI output. If you are using analog output, then you only need to run one cable. But still, let's make sure the camera is getting 12 volt. What you can do is you can actually disconnect the power cable from the camera, which I have a camera right here. So you can disconnect the cable from here and you can put a multimeter on the cable that's coming in to make sure that you have 12-volt power to the camera. That's the number one reason your camera's not working. It needs power, right? Number two, let's say you do have power to your camera, but you're still not seeing any video on your screen, whether it's our screen or it's a chart plotter from one of the major brands. The number one thing we see when it comes to that is you are not using the right input on your screen. So almost every screen in the market has multiple video inputs. So let's make sure that you are selecting the right source on your screen, whether it's video 1 or source 1 or AV1. Every screen has a different wording for different sources, but you may want to go through all the sources to figure out which input is where the camera is plugged into. If you are using our screen, you'll see an AV button on the screen itself that you may have to toggle one or two times to find the video input. Also keep in mind that camera does take 30 seconds to boot up. So make sure once you power the camera on, you wait about 30 seconds for it to fully fire up. And only after that, it will start sending video out to your screens. On a quick side note, sometimes when installers or customers run these cables through their boat, they end up breaking the cable internally because they're pulling on them really hard, or it's a tight turn and it's getting stuck somewhere. Well, if you think that you have a damaged cable, do reach out to us and we'll give you a replacement cable from our end. Number three would be trying to use multiple outputs at the same time. So our boat night vision cameras actually have two outputs. We have HDMI and analog. So what happens is customers will plug HDMI cable to our external screen, and then they will have an analog cable going to their chart plotter like Garmin or Simrad or some other brand. Well, these cameras, although they support two outputs, it's only one or the other. You cannot have output on both of them at the same time. So if the HDMI cable is plugged in, the camera will always default to HDMI, and you will no longer have anything on the analog side of on the analog port of the camera. So make sure you're only using one or the other. If you do need to power multiple screens, let's say, you can actually split HDMI or analog and have it plugged into multiple screens. Amazon has splitters. You can reach out to us and we can help you regarding what splitter works in your situation. Number four will slightly relate back to the power. What happens is we have an inline fuse on these cameras. So sometimes by accident, customer wires the cables wrong, so they're reversing the polarity. Instead of using positive, they're using the negative. When that happens, what happens is the fuse will blow on the inline fuse on the cable itself. So make sure you check that fuse. If you are using other fuse on your boat, like there's a fuse panel or somewhere in the bus bar there's a fuse attached to it, make sure those fuses are also good. Otherwise, if the fuse is blown, you have no power to the camera. The camera does not have any light right now on these models because it interferes with the night vision. So it's really hard to know if the camera is on or not unless you check the rear cable with the multimeter or test light and physically make sure it has power. That might change in the future with other models. Another common things we see with these cameras not working is customers or installers installing an HDMI cable into an output port instead of an input port. So any MFD or chart plotter that has an HDMI input also has an HDMI output port. Now both of those ports look exactly the same and our cable can be plugged into both of them. So make sure you read the lettering on the port and make sure it says input, not an output, because if you plug into an output port, it won't hurt anything. It just simply won't work. So make sure that you're inserting the HDMI cable on an input port, regardless of what chart plotter or screen that you're using. One other thing I would say is switch. We do recommend uh, wiring these cameras to a switch, whether you use the switch that we provide or the switch that's already on your boat. Make sure that switch is wired correctly. An incorrect wired switch obviously won't give power to the camera, meaning the camera will not turn on. So switch can definitely be a problem as well. And that's something you may want to look into if you're using one switch. Now, let's say your camera is working, but the image on your screen is super fuzzy and has lines in them, and it just doesn't look right, especially on the analog input port, because not everybody has HDMI input ports, and we understand that. So let's say for users who are using analog port on their chart plotter or screen, and you're seeing a lot of weird lines on the screen, there could be two things. Number one, it could be set to a wrong format. So there is two standards. There's NTSL and then there's PAL. Make sure your video format is set to PAL. It's usually a setting on your chart plotter or the screen. You may have to go and play around to really find it. Sometimes it's hidden underneath a couple of different menus, and it's different for every brand. So if you do have that problem where there are weird lines going across the screen, or the screen's turning in circles, check that setting. The other, when you have flickers, or let's say a high level of noise, usually that comes from other electrical noise. So what does that mean? Battery chargers, VHF, radars, uh, any electronics on your boat that's putting some sort of interference can cause interference on an analog side of the camera. Think of it like an old school TV. If there's an interference, you'll see it in the video. So in that case, there's a couple different things you can do. You can isolate the camera onto a separate battery and see if it goes away. You can try a portable battery just to test it. That way you know that the noise is for sure coming from the boat. They sell battery isolators. So if you have battery chargers that are putting back more noise in the system, you can use an isolator that can help. They have smaller video filters that you can get from Amazon or some other retail store that can basically sit between the camera analog video output and the chart plotter or the screen, and that will help you clean the signal. If you're not sure, reach out to us. Our support can walk you through some of the more advanced troubleshooting steps when it comes to figuring it out where the noise is coming from on your boat. Every boat is different, and it can be a little bit frustrating trying to figure out where the noise is coming from, but we are always here to help you with that. So do give us a call for that. Okay, so now that we have covered most of the most common ones, here are some more unique situations where you might have some issues. We have some customers that plug these cameras directly to their computer, whether it's a Windows PC, an Apple Mac laptop, or iPad, or Android tablet or phone. Anytime you're doing that, you're probably converting an HDMI signal into a USB signal. What that means is they have a converter dongles. They're basically it's called HDMI capture card on Amazon again. So you can buy these little converters where one end you have an HDMI cable going and the other end you have USB. That USB is usually Type-C, and they'll plug into your laptop or iPad or Android tablet, any smart device. When you are doing it that way, there could be issues with video not displaying on your smart device. And there's a couple things you can do to resolve that. Number one is finding the right app for your device. Every device has different apps that you can install. Bodai doesn't really have an app that you can install on all devices. We do have something on the beta section for Android, but other than that, you're sort of on your own. But there are apps like third-party apps that you can install on your device to see Bodai 360 on your smartphone. Plug the cable in, make sure you give all the permissions that it's asking, because it does need permissions to see the USB on your device. The other thing I would say is try unplugging, replugging. Sometimes it's simple as that and it fixes it. especially when the camera is on. If you're on Windows, you can use the default Windows camera app or OBS Studio. If you're on the Apple, again, you can use OBS Studio. Any generic app that can see a web camera, like a webcam, can see our BE360 camera as well. Again, if you have questions around this, give us a call and we can help you. Okay, let's say you did everything right, but it's still not working. There are a couple gotchas that I'm gonna explain you here that you may want to look into. One other thing is voltage drop. Anytime you extend our 26-foot cable to, let's say, 100 foot, 150 foot, there is a high probability that voltage will drop. And the same thing goes for HDMI. If you're adding HDMI extension cables and you're extending our default HDMI cable, well, now it has to work harder to send that signal over long distance. And when that happens, sometimes the signal will drop and your camera won't work. Either it won't turn on or it doesn't have enough juice to actually send the video signal to your screen because you have a 100+ foot HDMI cable in the way. One way to troubleshoot this is honestly just remove the long cable that you have in place and temporarily plug a generic cable. That way you know that it is the long run that is causing these problems. There are a couple boosters in the market that you can buy that can sit between the extension cable and the main cable that we sell, and it will boost the signal so that you can do the long runs on your vessel. We understand that some of you have vessels that are more than 100 feet. So if you do need help or have questions regarding those longer runs, do reach out to us. It's always better if you reach out to us before you run the cables, because then we can guide you on what actually you need, instead of you having to troubleshoot that part later, which is much harder because you already ran the cables in your boat. So thank you for watching. That wraps up this video. We covered majority of the issues we normally see on day-to-day basis from our customers and installers. If you need help with any of these things, or if you're still not sure, please do give us a call. We're always here to help you with anything that you need regarding installation. So you can text us, or you can call us, or you can email us anytime. Thanks for watching and hope your installation goes smooth.